Dil, first, what is the problem for a non-religious person eating halal or indeed kosher meat?
Well, there may be none at all. For us, the problem is that there is no humane way of slaughtering a conscious animal for meat. But that isn't always the case with halal slaughter, of course. 80% of the meat that we buy as halal meat in Britain is, in fact, pre-stunned. It never feels the knife going in. From an animal welfare point of view, we have no problem with halal meat or religious slaughter whatsoever. The question for us, and the question that we would like to see on labelling, is whether or not that animal was stunned before the knife went in.
If most of it is being stunned, Mo, would your dad consider that halal anyway?
I think the consensus of the Muslim civil society organisations in the UK and across Europe, and also of the Islamic scholars within the UK and across Europe, have agreed that although some people regard stun slaughter as halal, they consider that not to really be halal, or is a far lesser form of halal. So only non-stun slaughter is what they consider to be proper halal food.
So the problem is, though, that however it's being slaughtered, it's not being labelled. So if it was labelled halal but it's been stunned, you wouldn't be happy with that. And if it isn't labelled and it is halal, you wouldn't be happy either.
Well, I think one of the things is that the hysteria around some of the front pages we've seen over the last couple of days, which is attacking really Muslims and Islam, and it's a thinly veiled thing for prejudice. I think Dil and I would both agree that kind of stuff is really unhelpful.
Not necessarily, Mo, because it does raise questions about how humane halal slaughter is. That's a fair point.
It is, but the Pizza Express story is interesting. But, I mean, I've long been a proponent of the fact that I think shakita and halal slaughter is actually very humane because it's an instant stun. The animal dies, and as I think Russell Brand was tweeting about today, he was saying that, look, killing animals is not a nice process at all, and you know, it's better not to eat meat. I think we eat far too much meat anyway.
I think we'd have to. I think we'd have to agree to differ on that one, actually, Mo. Certainly, the body of the science does show that slaughtering an animal when it is still conscious is a painful process for it, and it elicits a lot of anxiety with it. It's not just me saying so. That's the government's most senior and influential advisory body. That's the Farm Animal Welfare Council, and also the European Union selects all the main experts on animal welfare under the name of the Scientific Committee on Animal Health and Animal Welfare. They all describe it as unhealthy, and there is no way that taking a blade to the sensitive structures of the neck can be deemed as humane.
But Dil, there's 100 years of research, which includes from Schulze, who spoke from the University of Veterinary Sciences in Hanover in Germany, and that was even in the 70s, who said that they put an electrocardiogram on animals, and when they were slaughtered using the halal and shakita method, it's no more inhumane than the best of all the other methods. There are almost 1 billion animals slaughtered each year in this country, and we'd agree there are huge welfare concerns around how many of those animals are slaughtered. Around 10% of those animals are slaughtered improperly. And so you will bolt a cow 4 times, and I apologise to people having their tea now, but yes, you could bolt a cow 4 times in the head and then dismember it alive, and that still goes on today.
It's an important issue, but it's not the issue we're talking about today.
Exactly. We clearly have many areas in common, but on whether or not an animal suffers, where an animal suffers when it is... I'm not relying on 100-year-old research for this. With modern research, we can measure the electrical patterns when that knife goes across those sensitive areas. Those electric patterns show it hurts. But when blood is sucked in from a severed windpipe, that causes them to choke. When the blood pressure drops, that causes anxiety. That's scientifically proven, and that's not a subjective debate.
If you're arguing
otherwise,
but we've got no subjective scientific studies to show that.
Just to finish off, let's get back to the labelling, because that really is the issue. Whether or not you agree with how halal is carried out, you would like to know what you're eating.
And if Mo is telling me he wants halal meat labelled, then I certainly wouldn't stand in his way for that. But it doesn't tell me what I want to know.
Mo,
when 20%... Jewish and Muslim groups, I think, both want to see halal meat labelled and kosher meat labelled.
But what I need to know is, was it conscious when it was done? That's where I need the labelling.